Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in. You're watching Now You Know, a JCC production where we review and discuss all things tech. And today we are talking about Tesla Model 3 Teardown Part 2. Yes, earlier on in the year, I think it was around February, I went ahead and did a video based on Munro & Associates teardown of the Model 3. And today we are going to do the second half of that as Autoline and Munro & Associates sat down to review the additional findings that they had on the teardown of the Model 3. And we're going to do that right after this. Alright folks, so if you haven't seen the first video, I'm going to go ahead and link it up here so that you guys can go back and reference it, just so you know where we are as far as what Part 1 was, what it included, what it didn't include, and where we are now in Part 2. So basically, I'm just going to go over a very high-level review of what Sandy, Munro, and Associates, as well as Autoline, sat down and discussed. Now, there are a bunch of topics that they reviewed. The video was about an hour and a half long, but I'm just going to highlight a few of them. And of course, would love to hear from you as we go through the video, participate, comment on anything that you would like to, and I just love the interaction and the participation. So let's get started. So Autoline and Sandy Munro sat down to review Munro's team's progress as it relates to the Tesla Model 3 teardown. So we're going to review, again, as I mentioned, some of the highlights and findings and discussion points that were made during the recent video. Let's just start off with number one. Sandy Munro still believes that the initial assessment and statements that he made regarding the fit, finish, and quality, or the FFQ, of the exterior and mechanical portions of the vehicle is still very poor. He continued to say that he is not sure why Tesla built the car the way that they did. Now, there were a lot of reasons and a lot of discussions as far as what that pertains to. We're going to get into some of them, but we're not going to get into every one of them in great detail. So he continued to state that Tesla does not have the experience when it comes to the production of the vehicle, causing the FF&Q, or the fit, finish, and quality issues that he continues to find. Here are some of the things that he stated and some of the reasons why he feels that some of these issues are still prevalent, or that he's still seeing in the Model 3. Now, I did want to preface something. The Model 3 that he is tearing down was probably an early production unit. I think he said it was early 2017, so very well could have been out of the first batch. And he actually has two of the vehicles. So I just wanted to make that known for you, for those of you, who didn't see the first video. So it's not a unit that just came off the production line in the past 6 months. It is an early vehicle. And I think we all know, of course, that we did see, or at least have heard, if you're a Tesla fan or if you've been following the production of the Model 3, a lot of people complaining about some of the things that Sandy Munro and Associates has identified. So here are some of the things that he said. And he feels that there are too many robots. Sandy called them actually bobs, or blind one-handed builders, or blind one-armed idiots, and that these robots can't do everything, and they lack that human interaction as far as identifying an issue. Yes, they are very good about taking a part from here and moving it over here, or doing a weld or something like that, but as far as the quality of that work being done, there is no way to, I guess, analyze or determine what that quality actually is. And if there aren't humans on the line validating some of that stuff, that's where some of the issues are coming in. But he also stated that you can have robots manufacture a vehicle, but they have to be very, very high-level attributes that these robots must conform to, and they're smart robots, right? We all know that robots and automation can do some extremely extraordinary things, but when it comes to production, there are some issues. He just said that automation can be accomplished, but it has to be designed to do so at a very high level. And actually, if you remember, if any of you have watched the CBS interview with Elon Musk, he admitted or even alluded to in his interview that there is too much automation in the production line of the Model 3, and that they will be reviewing and removing some of that automation build and make it a more manual or human interaction production line. So I think Elon gets it. I think that he sees the issues. And I would definitely suggest, if you have not seen that video, go back, take a look at that. There were also some interesting things that were stated out. And I also did a video on that, which I will link up here so you can go back and review at your leisure. All right, so moving on. Elon should have used the old-fashioned method of car building, Sandy Munro says. And if he did this, coupled with the technology that is in the Model 3, they would be wiping the floor with the competitors. Wow, that's actually pretty inspiring, because if you remember, and if you haven't seen, as I mentioned, go back and watch the other video, he was very critical of Tesla and the quality of the build. But he's actually giving a positive to Tesla, saying, hey, the tech in this car is just superb. It's outstanding. And if he would have coupled that with a quality build, man, this car would just be smashing the competition. So how does Tesla and Elon not see this? Do you have any comments or questions or some statements that you'd like to make? Please comment down below. I'd love to interact with you, because I know everybody has their perception, and I know there's a lot of Tesla fans out here, including myself, and I'm also a reservation holder, that don't want to hear this. Me, on the other hand, I don't mind criticism. I mean, in our daily lives or whatever you do for a living, there's always we can always be better at what we do, right? And if somebody can help us, point us in the right direction, wouldn't that be beneficial? So I think that this could be beneficial to Tesla and Elon. So as I mentioned, give me your thoughts and your statement down below. I'd love to interact with you. So everything is good from the tech side, but the build quality is not. Now, just to clarify, I believe that these are, as I mentioned earlier, early model builds, so we have to take that in consideration. I think we all know or understood or expected that there would be a slight variation in quality coming out on the early builds. So, you know, I'm not surprised by that at all. And I think that goes across the board with every manufacturer, that they do have some of these issues. So, I actually emailed Autoline and Munro & Associates and asked them if they would do a part 3 of the Tesla Model 3 teardown, but look at a newer released model. I mean, they don't have to tear it down all the way per se, but if they just do a couple of measurements and check out the gap tolerances, they would be able to see if the quality has improved along with the production ramp, which is a big deal. I think that it's been hit or miss so far. I think some cars that have been produced even early on were very good, and some cars that are still being produced today are not so good. And I'm going to get into a little bit about that a little bit later on. I'm going to give you a personal story of some of the issues that I've seen that don't pertain to Tesla at all. So, of course, they haven't responded to my email, and when they do, or if they do, they probably won't, I'll be sure to share that with you guys as well. But as I mentioned, I wanted to share a quick personal story with you guys regarding a situation that I found myself in. I am actually sort of tired of hearing about Tesla being the only manufacturer with these quality build issues, and that the production ramp is conducive of having these quality issues. Well, really, you know what? That's a bunch of BS, and I don't believe it, and here's why. So, my wife bought a brand new 2013 Ford Explorer. I'm just going to let it all out, right? So, you know, Ford people out there, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to live with it. Like most of the new Model 3 owners, she was excited to purchase this vehicle. And it wasn't a huge purchase. I mean, it's over $40,000. So, in my opinion, it's still a pretty hefty piece of change there. So, when I buy a vehicle, or anything for that matter, it doesn't matter if it's a $5 piece of equipment or whatever it is, I do expect it to have some quality behind it, especially when you're looking at a Model 3 price of $50,000 plus. You know, you expect some things to be worked out and have that quality base surrounding it. So, you know, we drove this car around for a couple of weeks and we were excited. She was excited. Hey, oh my gosh, look at it, has this, it has that. And after you got over that, what I'm going to call a love affair, or the first couple of weeks of owning the vehicle, you actually start to pay attention to some of the things that are around it, right? So the wind noise was an absolute issue, but we also found rattles, squeaks, weird noises that just came from all over the place. Electronics were just going haywire for no reason. Things would turn on and turn off. And basically, you know, the wind noise from all the gaps that were just found all over the vehicle, the doors, the hood, the liftgate, everything. And it was just a horrible build, and we didn't even notice that until, again, after the love affair that we had. So again, this isn't just Tesla. This problem is every manufacturer, and it's one-off, right? It's not every car that's produced. Maybe it's 1 out of 1,000. Maybe it's 1 out of 5,000. Who knows what it is? But again, it's just not Tesla having these problems, folks. It's everybody. So we brought the car back to the dealer, and basically we showed them all the gaps and all the issues that we found, and they fixed a couple of things, but basically they just said, hey, these gaps are within the tolerances and the specifications that we manufacture to, and there's nothing we're going to be able to do. There was a part on my hood that was so bad that they actually put a stack of 4 washers basically on the mechanism that basically lifts the hood up to fix it. And it was just piss poor, right? So I was just furious that I paid all this money and my doors and my hood and all the other issues were not going to be cared for. And then you can actually visually see these things. So the moral of the story is it's not just Tesla, folks. As I just mentioned, it's everybody. Regardless of what Mr. Munro says about the Model 3 being produced, and you know, he may be onto some things here, but it's more than just that. All car manufacturers face the same issue, and basically that's quality control, quality check, and how the actual vehicle is being produced. So, if Tesla has these issues, I just hope that, you know, they're taking care of their customers and fixing them. You know, I don't know whatever it is, but if Tesla is going to say that they want to be 10 times better than everyone else, they better start making the necessary changes to the vehicle and the way that it's produced to be able to meet that statement. The quality of build along with the tech will set Tesla ahead of every manufacturer on this planet. I believe they already have a good foot forward. They just have a small piece to turn around and make that happen. So let me ask you this. If Tesla cannot get the fit, finish, and quality figured out, and other manufacturers start to catch up in relation to the tech side of things, but are already producing a better quality vehicle from a mechanical perspective, where does that leave Tesla? Let me know your thoughts. Comment down below, because that's very interesting to me. And if I can't figure out, I'll go ahead and put a poll question to this video in relation to that question. Because, right? I mean, how far along is Tesla advanced from everybody else as far as technical aspects are concerned? It appears to be quite far, according to what Sandy Munro has to say. But the quality side is actually the opposite side of the spectrum. So it will just be interesting to find out what your opinions are. If other manufacturers are able to catch up tech-wise, but have a better build quality right now today than Tesla does, how is Tesla going to fare in the future for that? So let me know your thoughts and opinions on that. So moving on. Here's an issue I have with Tesla and some of the statements that were made. This is an email that Elon Musk sent out to his employees, and I quote, "Most of the design tolerances of the Model 3 are already better than any other car in the world. Soon, they will be all better. This is not enough. We will keep going until the Model 3 build precision is a factor of 10 better than any other car in the world. I'm not kidding. Our car needs to be designed and built with such accuracy and precision that if any other measurements, dimensions, panel gaps, or flushness, and their measurements don't match the Model 3 specs, it just means that their measuring tape is wrong." End quote. Wow, that's a pretty bold statement. for Elon to make, considering that we see all of these quality issues, not just from Munro and Associates, but go out, do some searching, do some research on your own, and you're going to see that people do actually have these issues. It's not something that Munro and Associates are drumming up, and that's great. But folks, come on, Elon. If you're going to make that statement, go and make it so. Make it true. Prove everybody a liar, and you know, beat this up. Get this quality done. There's one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I go out and I look at some forums every now and again. I don't do a whole lot of that, but I do go out and look at some blogs and some forums, and I just find some of the craziest things and statements that people say. And I encourage you to go do that if you don't already. But some Tesla fans get so upset about people making statements such as Munro, or just people in general making statements on these forums and blogs about any quality issues that they find on the Model 3. And these folks are getting bashed. There was one article I find, and I apologize, I probably shouldn't mention it, but I'm going to anyway, but I can't find it anymore. I don't know what, it got lost somewhere. But this guy just put out there, hey, listen, here's some quality issues that I have. He attached pictures and everything, and basically just made a statement that, hey, I just spent $57,000. I don't know what his configuration was, but basically he spent $57,000 on a vehicle, and he's seeing all of these issues, these quality issues, and people were just like bashing him about it. And I just couldn't believe that people were actually doing that. Listen, I'm a Tesla fan. I'm a reservation holder, but I would never bash anybody about a statement that they made when it's factual and they can prove that it is. I just don't get it why people would do that. So encouragement, I don't know. There's trying to keep the naysayers down, but I don't think he's naysaying. He bought a Tesla. He's just saying, hey guys, I see the same problems. But anyway, if I'm spending $50,000 on a vehicle, and as I mentioned, my Ford, a little less than that, it damn well better be of good quality fit and finish, and it better have some great techie stuff in it as well. I'm not spending $50,000 to buy a I don't know what they call a Euro or whatever these small little cars are nowadays. I'm not buying that. I'm buying a middle-class car that's $50,000 plus, and I expect to have certain qualities surrounding that, right? The old adage, you get what you pay for. I mean, I think $50,000 is a lot of money, folks. It's not a drop in the bucket. I mean, you can get a lot of vehicles today for $20,000, $25,000 and less than that actually have a good quality build to it. I think people just expect a little bit more. I honestly believe the things that the Munro team is finding are actually legit. You can go back and do some investigative work yourself on it, but they just start making these things up, folks. These are quality issues based on what they found and what people are saying and reporting. Here are some photos that I found in reference to somebody else posting, not about the comment I made earlier, but this is completely different. Just some postings of some photos that I found, just highlighting some of the gap tolerances and issues that they find in their vehicles. So at the end of the day, and this is in regards to the email that Elon sent out about being 10 times better than everybody else, Sandy stated that he guarantees that the mechanical quality build is not the best in the world that Elon has alluded to, and continued to state that Tesla ignored 100 to 200 years of experience when it comes to car building and the use of specific processes that guarantee quality builds. But hey, as I just mentioned, Ford's been around for how many years, folks? And they still messed it up. Again, it may be less than Tesla is producing. Maybe it's one in every 10,000 vehicles or whatever it is. But every manufacturer has that, and I'm sort of tired of hearing that it's only related to Tesla, because it's not. And basically, he went on to say that if you don't use these processes, you're basically going to end up building a lousy car mechanically. Okay? He also stated that he has hundreds, if not 1,000 emails from people complaining about many different issues, such as gaps, my door don't close the right way, my door handle isn't flush, things of that nature. So basically, he just went on to state that, that the build quality is in the lower half of the quality scale. And they were sort of comparing this to the BMW i3. I don't know myself, but I heard that this vehicle was very, very well outfitted from a quality perspective. Technical side, I can't speak to, but that's sort of where they were comparing it to. He also brought out the wishbone, which is part of the front suspension, and there were some additional pieces of metal that he stated were a big lump of iron that was glued to the wishbone, and that he wasn't sure why it was added. He had some assumptions that it had to do with the additional or the possibility of the additional motor, and that this would be some kind of noise reducer / mass damper. But why were there 2 zip ties holding this piece on? Now, I don't know, maybe it was in the production process that, okay, we just need to have these 2 zip ties to hold it on while we do whatever we do to it, but that's just odd. I mean, I've never seen that before. Again, I'm not a manufacturing expert or anything like that, but what are your thoughts? What would you do if you saw these 2 zip ties on your wishbone? I mean, do you think that that's odd in any way, shape, or form? Just curious. Comment down below, because I found it a little odd. But he further stated that he's not sure why they did this, and he pointed out that this kind of stuff was found or seen all over the vehicle. Not the zip tie thing, but just these weird things that he doesn't sure why they did it the way that they did it. And he's saying that this is all alluding to why we're having the FF and Q issues throughout the vehicle. So Sandy keeps saying that, you know, why didn't Tesla do things the conventional way? Well, in my opinion, if you continue to build things the conventional way, you aren't being innovative in the design and processes to produce things better, make things better. And, you know, hey, you could be designing and innovating the next best thing in the automotive manufacturing industry. And, you know, there is something to be said about building things the conventional way because it's proven, you know it works. But in order to make things better, and that's in every aspect of life, sometimes you have to think outside of the box, right? And do things the unconventional way to be able to produce and innovate things on a larger scale and better scale. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, it doesn't make sense to necessarily build things differently just to be different. And I'm not saying that that's what Tesla is doing, but I'm just saying that that doesn't make sense either. So you sort of have to take the innovative and designing aspect of production into consideration here and do things the conventional way when it makes sense, but be innovative. Of course, I mean, that's always a better way of looking at things. So I think that being innovative, as Tesla is, we all know that, could be a link or relationship link reasons why Tesla's facing some of these issues pertaining to FF and Q, the fit, finish, and quality. So all right, so let's move on to some of the good things that Munro and Associates had found with the vehicle. Starting out with the controller, I'm going to pop that picture up here behind me. That Sandy and Munro and Associates were very, very impressed with the electronics, especially the controller. And he stated that the electronics are top-notch quality and the rest of the auto industry should stand up and take notice. That's a big deal. And, you know, when you start to look at the electronic aspect of this vehicle, we all know it's cutting edge, it's innovative, right? And if they weren't being innovative in this, they wouldn't be building things that the other manufacturers are just in awe of, right? So I think that they need to continue to do that. But Sandy kept on saying that the main controller that Tesla is using is that of a flight controller on an F-35. And basically meaning that those components on an F-35 have to make millions of calculations in a very, very rapid pace in order to do the things that it requires to do. And, you know, you can consider autopilot being amongst some of those things that controller needs to process, but there's many other things that go on in the car that need to process very, very rapidly. So that's awesome. He also stated that the board is reminiscent that of a cell phone and defense technology, which both have to make very rapid, precise calculations as things are being processed. So that's awesome. That was a very, very good aspect of the chip being able to make those calculations as rapidly as they can. And I think it's all related to how close everything is built and basically the precision in building it. And again, being innovative, right? Another positive hit or topic that they discussed was a skateboard. And what they referenced the skateboard as basically everything from the floor pan down, which includes the battery and the suspension. And Sandy went on to state that the battery pack, which we all know are the 2170 cells, was an exceptional design. And the balance of load between all the battery cells was something he has never seen before. And he mentioned it being 2 milliamps within variation to each other. And basically said he couldn't believe that anybody could build a battery this efficient. And he went on to state that he felt that basically we don't have anything to worry about as it relates to this battery from a failure perspective or a bad cell causing any issues. And I know a couple months back, there was a topic of discussion relating to the degradation of the battery over a period of time. And I think some of those calculations were less than 10% or about 10% over a 10-year period of time that, you know, basically you're going to be buying a new car at that point in time. Maybe, I don't know. I hold on to my cars for a little bit longer than 10 years, or I've had in the past. So we'll see, but all great news, right? I mean, you know, this is the innovation that we're talking about. This is the technology that we're talking about, that Tesla is just separating themselves away from the entire auto industry by doing these things. And he basically went on to say that anyone who ignores this car is doing it at their own peril, and stating that this is revolutionary stuff, not evolutionary, but revolutionary, and everyone else is going to be sitting around twirling their thumbs wondering how do they get there. And that's something to say, and I think that Tesla should be very proud of that. And as a Tesla owner, you all should be proud of that as well. So Tesla is definitely doing some things right. So he went on about the suspension, and we're just going to give some specs. Hold on, before I give some specs, I wanted to make this statement. Sandy said that the suspension was so superb, and the person who designed it could be a prince. Now, I don't know what that prince statement actually means, but essentially what he's saying is it's just a superb design. And some of the specs are the front is a double wishbone suspension, and the rear has a 5-link suspension. And basically, he just stated that it was just quality throughout the suspension. And he did several test drives with this vehicle, and basically every demand or everything that he did for this car, the demand that he gave this car, it conformed to everything. Every time he wanted to crank a corner, it conformed. When he pushed the gas down or the pedal down, I don't want to call it gas, sorry about that. As he smashed the pedal down, it accelerated. Every demand that he gave this car, it just kept giving and giving and giving. And he could not say anything bad about it. And the car was well balanced, and just a very, very positive driving experience. And you know, so Tesla has a handful of things going for them, and really, in my opinion, it all surrounds the fit, finish, and quality of the vehicle, the technology aspect of it, the battery, the innovation that is surrounding this vehicle in and out are just positive things moving forward. And I think that if Tesla can just get through the fit, finish, and quality of this vehicle, they are going to be producing a vehicle that the world is going to be standing in awe of. And Sandy definitely did allude to that. And so listen, folks, that's really all I have for you today. On the way out, I just wanted to wrap this up and make one comment to you, is that it's more than just the fit, finish, and quality of the vehicle. Tesla is producing a vehicle that is going to change the way the world thinks about energy. And for me, that's where it really hits home. I mean, I have a 3-year-old, and in 15 or 20 years, I don't want to have her walking around with a mask on her face because of the pollutants and the ignorance of society not moving toward a sustainable future for our environment and for our loved ones, because they can't get the fit and finish quality of a vehicle completed. That's a very, very, very small thing to look at, minuscule in my perspective, as it relates to the other aspects of what Tesla is doing and how the sustainability of this vehicle will be looked at moving forward in the future. So with that being said, folks, thank you for tuning in. And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe and give a thumbs up. And please feel free to comment down below. I love to hear what you guys have to say, your thoughts. And that's all I have. Thank you for watching. Now you know.